Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to prepare for an external audit. So this is from a cyber perspective, but I'm sure you can use this for financial risk audits and any other related audit as well. It's like a basic set of things you can do to get the most out of it. So don't just prepare to pass the audit. Don't take it as someone is coming in to assess us and that's it. Look at it as you're getting expert eyes on your business. How can I get the most out of it? So let's say day to day you don't necessarily have experts in, you only have your own perspective, which is not a problem and which is understandable. When you have someone external coming in, before they come in, have something in mind that you'd like to get out of this as well. So I'm going to help you shape that. So why organizations waste external audits? They collect evidence at the last minute. So it's like a rushing exercise. You're chasing the audit as opposed to being audit ready. And then they only answer what the auditor asks. So the scope is very narrow. They explain everything verbally instead of preparing context. They treat the audit like a fire drill, so almost like an emergency thing. They pass and then they kind of just leave it. So nothing is actually improving after that. So the first step is decide what success looks like before the audit. So first of all, why are you being audited in the first place? Is it a mandatory thing? Like, is it being forced on you? Is it something you've requested to almost like baseline yourself so you can improve for the future? What is driving this audit? So is it that you're trying to satisfy your clients, so you're trying to certify to a standard or show ongoing improvement? Leadership value, so do the leadership want to get some maybe like diagnosis around what's wrong with the organization? Future reuse, so are you using this to prepare for future audits or questionnaires? And then what's in scope, what's not in scope? These are all important questions that help you shape how to prepare for the audit. And then the next thing I like to do is to create an audit context pack. So usually an auditor comes in, you grant them access to things, they start digging around, and then they come back with loads of questions which could have been answered by a simple document outlining everything. So kind of give them like a context building. It could be a presentation deck. It could be just a simple document that just has links to different things. So an organizational overview. So who you serve, what you've done, where your current cybersecurity is. Be as detailed as you want to be. Give them as much context. Think of all the common questions they'll ask you, just to, again, save them time. So you don't want them to spend time on things you already know. You want them to bring something new to you. So bring them up to speed as soon as possible. The business model, technology landscape, all these little things add to the experience of the auditor in terms of giving them enough information for them to ask better questions and get better outcomes. Critical systems, scope boundaries, security operating model, whether that's diagrams, policies, give them as much as possible. Key contacts, so you can break this down by system owner, but just think of any question they might have, who is best placed to answer the question. And then if possible, try to get them to carve out some time. So the key contacts, have them on call almost for any questions the auditor might have. And then recent security improvements, this is really important. So let's say you have something in flight, rather than the auditor coming at the end of the audit, giving you a report and saying, oh, you should do this if you're already doing it. So anything that's in flight, you can just give like a quick synopsis of what you're aiming to do, the stage you're currently at, and any challenges you might have. Again, quite useful, but again, you don't want the auditor to tell you something you're already working on. You want them to give you something new. And then give examples before they ask. So you should have a document library that has like evidence of things you've already done. So try and give them access to all of that. Make it as organized as possible so they can flip through easy and just get an understanding as to how you're operating as an organization. Give them all of that so that they're well placed to give feedback that is a bit more meaningful. You don't want all the insights to come at the end where you're almost like correcting them as you go. Step 4, gather evidence by system and not just control. So make it easy to navigate. You might find for your organization it makes sense to go by control, but again, depending on what you're trying to achieve, it might be better to do by domain. So maybe like access control versus cryptography. Like just try to find a logical method for laying out all your information, and having like your key processes. So you can say domain, a list of processes, and then the controls or evidence that you have. So just try and lay it out in a way that is easy for them to navigate so that they can get the most out of things and as quick as possible. Step 5, Understand the change behind every piece of evidence. So rather than just saying this is a piece of evidence, add as much context to that so they understand why, how it's improved over time. So you might add some history behind that, show how things have improved over time. Which control does it demonstrate? So you can do some references to like common controls that you might be using. If you're not aligning to any controls, you can just do like a NIST CSF, or if you're trying to align to ISO 27001, you can make reference to that. What business risk does it reduce? Outlining that should also show the relationship between what you're trying to achieve as a business, or what risks that you've found are most prevalent for your business. What story does it tell? Try to develop it as a story so that it's easy for the auditor to follow. And then lastly, the sense check is always, would this evidence make sense to someone outside the team, i.e. an auditor? So have that in mind as you're preparing evidence. And then build reusable evidence. So the biggest win is going to be creating an evidence library. So that means in the future when you have like audits, like client questionnaires, you have something that you can reuse time and time again. For client questionnaires, something that I found works well is building like a repository that has like commonly asked questions that you just need to slightly adapt and then update on like an annual basis, or have a field that says last updated, so you can keep it relatively up to date, so you're not starting from scratch each time. Board reporting, regulatory requests, internal reviews. Essentially, anytime you're asked to produce a piece of material, document it, and then when you need to create the next one, the next time it's asked, whether it's from that same organization or someone else, you can always make a tweak as opposed to starting again. And then it also gives people a baseline for what you have decided is acceptable in terms of supplying evidence for others as well, and that can be used as an exemplar. 7, this is really, really important. So have an audit onboarding session. So this can be at the beginning of the week, beginning of the engagement. Even if it's 1 to 2 hours, it's quite bulky, but it's gonna help during the week when you get more busy. So walk the auditor through the objectives and scope. Explain your business model, your terminology. If you have an internal glossaries, provide them with that. Just anything that will help them understand your business as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Show the technology and security operating model. If you have any diagrams, provide that as well. That all helps. Highlight major risks and recent improvements, and then clarify like owners, evidence locations, key contacts, etc. And the week before this, or before they come in, you should have briefed your internal stakeholders to make sure that they're aware of what they'll be asked and how to help and when to be available and things like that. But something here that is quite important is making sure they have that checking, getting them to check the links to make sure everything works. Because again, those are things that slow you down during an engagement. So just making sure they have everything they need prior to you, and almost like letting them go into the wild and having a look at everything. So use the audit to improve the security program. So it can be various things, but you need to look at it from the lens of, you know what your problems are. Someone is coming in, like you've shared your problems with them, and then they're hopefully going to find some new ones or some new suggestions for how to improve your organization. So you want to look at it as an exercise, not just a one-off point in time. You look at it as something that, let's say they come in annually or every 6 months, you have it in mind that they're going to improve, you're going to have new improvements to make the next time they come in. So things like evidence gaps, so what evidence was hardest to find, ownership gaps, which controls lack clear owners, process gap, which processes were hard to explain, repeated questions, which questions keep coming back, priority actions, which fixes would make the next audit easier. So looking at the onboarding that I mentioned earlier, if you found that, it took them 3 to 4 hours to get going because you had this hitch, and this hitch, that's an indicator that for the next audit, that's something to improve upon. And then also making a note of where the gaps were. So it's not enough to just note it down physically, but actually going in and almost getting some data in that way and saying, okay, we've noticed that 5 or 6 gaps are in this place, in that place. And then based on an audit, you might decide that you're going to do a quick 90-day improvement plan and decide to rapidly fix all of the or majority of the issues that came in from the audit as a means of rapidly improving the security program. But again, it's up to you. If you find, or if you already had something on your roadmap for that, fine. But make sure that you're updating your future improvement plan based on what they've said. And then lastly, Or number 9, leave the audit better than you started. So by the end of the audit, you should have stronger documentation, clearer ownership, reusable audit artifacts, improved processes, better customer assurance material, and then ultimately it should be easier to do the next audit. So it's not going to happen overnight, but again, if you allocate, let's say, 30 to 90 days to rapidly improving specific areas that have been highlighted in the audit, then that is maybe setting up as a project. That's a good way to make sure that you're improving the audit and not just leaving it as a standalone activity. So common things that go wrong when preparing for audits. So I'll compare them. So screenshot collection compared to a reusable evidence library, so something that's tagged, easy to search through. Last minute evidence chasing, context pack prepared early, so they have all the information they need. Unclear owners compared to named owners. Verbal explanations only compared to examples ready for interviews. No reusable library, evidence mapped to systems and controls, and then findings treated as isolated tasks, and then findings linked to a roadmap or a 90-day plan. So do not prepare for one audit, build a security system that makes every future audit easier. So we want to be audit ready at all times. We want it to be minimal effort in order to improve for an audit. We don't want it to come in and to be stressful for the team or something that people dread or something like that. You want it to be something that people are aware of, they're confident in because you've prepared so well for it, and they go into it with confidence. They know exactly what they're doing because they've been doing it all year round. So if you need help with preparing for audits, I have the Security Startup Implementation Kit. So it's a practical kit that has a number of different exercises, spreadsheets, documents that help you build out your processes and move towards audit readiness in terms of, let's say you want to certify to a standard. So it's a step you take before that. You've hit the baseline, you've covered your baseline, you've improved over time, and then you're closer to being able to call someone in to help you out. So rather than calling someone in to do the basics, you do the basics, you get to grips with the basics, and then later on you call in a expert to help audit. But that's everything I have for today. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you later.